and takes a field trip to Moscow.
What is he doing over there?
Let's talk about it, y'all.
Middle America.
We're back.
We're here.
Aren't you so happy, dear listener? All the people in Venezuela land are happy because we have returned. All right, you beautiful people. After all the lies and the secrets of the left-wing and right-wing media, all those horrible people that try to keep us down, the man and all that, we have returned.
Here we are.
Yes. I've been hearing lots of people in the interwebs trying to ask, Vincent, tell us how we should think about all these situations. Please, we're sick and tired of all these corporate journalists. We need you and your expert takes.
So sit back because Vin is coming with some
Sit back, dear
opinions.
listener. We have returned
have.
all the beautiful middle Americans. We're not left-wing. We are not right-wing.
We're just right.
We're just right, dear listener. We are just right. Well, unless you have lived under a rock for the last decade or whatnot, you've heard the very interesting news that our sometimes friend Tucker Carlson has taken a trip to Moscow and has landed in an interview with the man himself. I was going to say Beelzebub.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
The man himself, Vladimir Putin.
Mm-mm-mm.
All right. Now, the interview has not dropped yet, dear listener. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the actual video. It's only a 4-minute video, but you can count on us to ramp up again. We've got a lot of content coming for you guys as well. And shout out to all my beautiful people, Tasco in the house, Randy in the house, who was actually the one that sent me this video, Ranter Matt, of course, and Knockout, all you beautiful people. We're back to regular scheduled program. Okay, now let us listen to Mr. Tucker Carlson's justification for this horrible betrayal of our country. Let's check it out.
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you guys, like, that's one of the most obvious things about this entire situation to me is people saying, I mean, I'm seeing so many people freak out about this. I truly don't get it.
They're freaking out?
Why are you giving him a platform? It's this whole idea, like, if you talk to somebody, you're giving them a platform. You know, like, this is kind of...
Yeah, I'm familiar with that thought process.
Yeah, and it's like, it's Vladimir Putin. He does not need a platform. My God. But secondly, you have to think this through with me, like, as an American. What harm could come to the American people being exposed to a different version of the events that maybe they were not exposed to before? Why would there be a backlash against that? That's one of the things I want to know. Like, because to me, the backlash against this interview is an insult collectively to the American people. Because either you're saying that we're not worthy to have the information that people in the intelligence apparatus have access to, or people in the media have access to that they purposely don't share with us, like certain situations with certain viruses that were almost certainly made synthetically in a lab by human beings, which then leaked and killed, 3 million people across the globe, something like that. The idea that, yes, middle America is back, and yes, people have been rushing to conclusions, okay? But, like, that's a very serious question I want answered, man. Like, what are they afraid of? Here's the other thing. Well, Putin might go up there and you might fall victim to his misinformation. So it's like, oh, so we're too stupid to be able to decipher whether or not Putin is trying to G us. I don't know, man. I think Americans are probably going to be pretty adept at knowing when a politician is trying to G them,
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we've
seen it before.
Yeah, we've kind of seen it before.
Plus there's that proverb that says one story sounds true until you hear the other person that was involved.
Correct.
So we've only been hearing one side. So everybody's like on that side or thinking that, I definitely think it's important to hear both sides.
2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have
That is true. Most Americans were not informed about the seeds of the conflict relative to Ukraine and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, my friend M. Death Fan, I was on another channel, and he was bringing this up because there was a buildup at the border. He's like, the Russians are going to invade. I said, stop it, man. The Russians aren't going to invade nothing. They ain't going to invade nobody. And then sure enough, they invaded. As a matter of fact, the Russians invaded while we were in the middle of a live stream. And I might dig up that live stream one day. But in that live stream, I was like, Slava Ukraine, blah, 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 Russians terrible, blah, 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 blah. Because I was ignorant to the situation, the geopolitical situation that had been festering and germinating for literal decades even before we were born. I didn't know. All I knew was that this underdog country was being invaded by Russia. Okay? And then I did some research. And then we did Ukraine on Fire. And then we saw that the Ukrainians were not hapless victims of Russian imperial aggression, but that we saw that there was a concerted effort by the United States government to jump on with certain hostile elements within that government. Yes, Nazi elements, the right sector, all those people that we talked about before, all the Sieg Heil marches, all the rest of it, and people were calling us crazy, saying that we were Russian puppets, yada, yada, yada. We watched the entire documentary, and then we quoted experts like John Hirschmeyer and all the rest of it, and literally Noam Chomsky, everybody that said that we were centrally responsible for this conflict. We talked about how even when the Russians and the Ukrainians tried to broker for peace, that the Nazis kidnapped Dennis Kyriv, who was the main guy that was trying to broker a peace deal.
Yeah.
They kidnapped dude and executed him in the town square. And it's come out that Biden had run interference on these peace talks because we wanted this to continue. Yeah.
You could have learned, you could have listened to the song.
There was a lot of information that we were not privy to as the average American citizen when you were watching it. As a matter of fact, Ukraine on Fire got taken down from YouTube.
I bet.
Our video got suspended by YouTube. Okay? So this was a very, very, very concerted effort. What is up, Delaney in the house? We continue.
no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it.
Correct. You know how everybody's saying there's inflation and we're at the foothills of a recession? And as that was going on, this dude was sending $100 billion, $200 billion checks to the Ukrainian.
Yep.
Not to the Ukrainians.
Yep. While our entire nation was suffering from not enough formula.
Seduct. Slot Magic says, a uniparty or deep state that runs DC and pressures mainstream media to lie to America is the biggest threat to our country. Vote Trump 2024 to save the country. Look, I don't believe that Trump or any one man or woman can save the country. But if you don't believe in my friend Slot Magic, first of all, shout out, welcome to Middle America. Never met you in my life, but thank you for participating. We love participation here in Middle America. Facebook.com/America Middle. I can't come to the conclusion that any one man is going to save this country. I think if this country is going to be saved, it's going to be people like Slot Magic, us, getting together, having these conversations, and then using our votes as weapons or articles of self-defense, right? But what I will say is that the way in which the Biden administration has had so brazenly and nakedly upended our democracy, to me, is unforgivable. Like the fact, for example, that while he's talking about preserving democracy, the DNC killed any primaries so that a dude who's vastly, horribly unpopular cannot have a serious challenger. I think those are threats to democracy as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that Trump or any guy is going to be the savior, but I think at this point, everybody's kind of looking around and saying, okay, the Trump years weren't as bad, right? Like, this is ridiculous, right? We're talking about wars now.
Yeah.
We've got another one happening over there in Israel and Gaza. We continue.
In ways they might not fully yet perceive. The war in Ukraine is a human disaster. It's left hundreds of thousands of people dead.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know how folks are going to have to deal with this, but all that Slava Ukraine shit and all your Ukraine flags on your, that aided and abetted in the death of innocent people, man. So, like, if you go back 2 years and look at the conversations that were being had, like now with 2020 hindsight, now that we're worried about the Gazans, this Ukraine thing is like, all right, we're done with these guys. It's like people like, yeah, and now the voters are like, yeah, we don't want to send another $100 billion to these people. So it's like, what the hell were we doing 2 years ago then?
Exactly.
What were people doing? You took the good. This is the government and media together took the collective goodwill of American people. I think most Americans, we love an underdog story. And I think they knew exactly how to get us. And they did a brilliant, concerted social media propaganda campaign. And they absolutely propagandized us. I'm going to say us collectively. All right? I'm not going to spike the football. I'm going to say us collectively. They got us.
Yeah.
And now hundreds of thousands of people are dead, displaced, homeless. The region is never going to look the same. And, who are the winners in this conflict? I don't know, man. I don't know. We continue.
An entire generation of young Ukrainians, and it's depopulated the largest country in Europe. But the long-term effects are even more profound. This war has utterly reshaped the global military and trade alliances.
This is true. I talked about this, how Germany now is essentially Europe is essentially a client continent of the United States. We know, my personal opinion is a lot of this Ukraine stuff and the poking and prodding at Ukraine and the threatening of Russia by, us moving these high-powered weapons right onto the border of Russia and Ukraine. I think all that instigation was to give us a sort of shell reason to destroy Nord Stream 2. Because the climax of this whole thing was Nord Stream 2. And if you guys understand, this pipeline from Russia to Germany, listen, it was going to slash prices for the Germans. And even Trump, somebody talked about the Uniparty. Trump supporters, think this through. Trump was going over to Merkel, I think it was, Angela Merkel, and talking about, why are you going with the Russians? You guys are being ungrateful, blah, 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 blah. And of course, Biden famously stated, we're not going to allow them to use Nord Stream 2. And the reporter was like, well, what are you going to do? He's like, we're just not going to allow it.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, boom, there goes Nord Stream 2. And now the Europeans are a complete client continent of America.
Wow.
However, there is talk that the Indians, as in folks from India, the Russians and the Chinese, are going to get together and create a bloc of their own to try to compete with Western hegemony. We'll see if that finds itself out. But that's what he's talking about. It's utterly shaped global military and trade alliances, correct.
And the sanctions that followed have as well. And in total, they have upended the world economy. The post-World War II economic order, the system that guaranteed prosperity in the West for more than 80 years, is coming apart very fast, and along with it, the dominance of the US dollar. These are not small changes. They are history-altering developments. They will define the lives of our grandchildren.
The US dollar is absolutely fluctuating, but I'm not as glass half empty as Tucker is about that. I don't think that the Russians and the Chinese are yet in a situation where they could really, really hurt us. But if we do sit on it and do nothing about it, they can. My only concern is, what's going to be the solution? I wish the solution was, well, let's stop these war and reinvest
Yeah.
reinvest in small businesses and other things, and so grow our economy,
Yeah,
because a
build
strong
it. Yeah.
economy is gonna obviously give us a strong military. You can keep a strong military without investing billions and billions and hundreds of $billions into war and killing people. If you make the place prosperous, then we'll be able to have a pretty strong military. We did it all through the 90s with Clinton. And we were pretty much able to avoid a lot of these conflicts until the Monica switching happened, and all of a sudden we had Bosnia. We could.
Most of the world understands this perfectly well. They can see it. Ask anyone in Asia or the Middle East what the future looks like. And yet the populations of the English-speaking countries seem mostly unaware. They think that as nothing has really changed. And they think that because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt. They lie to their readers and viewers. And they do that mostly by omission. For example, since the day the war in Ukraine began, American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they have done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States...
An interview with Zelensky. All right.
Does that make you laugh?
Zelensky to me is his big crime is cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a lot of judgments for Zelensky. I mean, we've seen the video where he confronted those guys at the border where they were going after the Russian nationalists that are in Ukraine that identify more as Russians, the Donbass region. He went down there and said, "Stop bombing these people," blah blah blah. And the commander got right up in his face and laughed at him.
Yeah.
And then they published in their own newspaper that if he ever did something to betray them, that he would be hung up in the middle of the town square. Yeah. They said this about the president of the country. We shot a video where a governor in one of the provinces over there in Ukraine was begging for his daughter to be returned because the Russians kidnapped him. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't the Russians, it was the Ukrainians. Yes, dear listener, it was a Ukrainian government official was looking in the camera begging for the life of his daughter because she had been kidnapped by Ukrainians because he was pushing for peace.
Jeez.
Okay? We reported on all this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And still, people were supporting this regime. It's it shows you the power of the media and the social media industrial complex relative to war. Unbelievable. We continue.
They're not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it.
What he said.
And pay for it. It's true.
Pay for it.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You were taking food out of the mouths of American children to put into the gas tanks of these AC-130s to deliver these horrible weapons over to these people. It's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. But like I said, I think Zelensky's greatest sin here is cowardice. But we don't know what any of us would do if we were in his situation. On the one hand, he's got a superpower that believes that it can profit off of war and bloodshed. And then on the other hand, you have a small group of fanatics who are being backed by that superpower. That's why when people say things like, "Oh, do you think everybody there is a Nazi?" Blah, blah, blah. You don't need everybody to be a Nazi. All you need is the people with the most power, the most guns, and the most willingness to do bad shit. Yeah. What is their ideology?
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah, because not everybody's willing to go to a certain level.
Correct.
Obviously, those folks that he went and talked to in the woods, they were ready to go to a level he wasn't ready to, and they knew it, and he knew it.
Sadak, most of us are not willing to kidnap people's daughters and hold them for ransom.
For
most
peace.
Most of our consciences wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yeah. Like, it's not even like he was actually... The man wanted peace.
Correct.
What ended up happening?
Correct.
They got her back?
I don't know. I don't know if they got her. I don't know if they got her back. To be honest with you, I don't know. But like that was a situation. So if you were supporting Ukraine, that's what you were supporting. You were not supporting regular Ukrainians who just wanted to get on with their freaking lives. You were supporting a small group of radical crazy people.
Yep.
In the same way that we did with Al Qaeda famously in the Russian conflict, in the same way they supported the Viet Cong relative to us. Okay? That's what proxy wars are. We continue.
That is not journalism. It is government propaganda.
Correct.
Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that...
Look, I say this all the time. The propaganda that kills people. I say this all the time. I was propagandized after 9/11. And I say that so that the rest of us can stand a chance. Because what happens is our ego now gets into the question.
Yep.
Because now, if you got propagandized, you have to admit that you got outsmarted or you got out-strategized or that you didn't see something that was obvious that you should have seen. And now, like, because we're all so worried about how we look to other people, we can't swallow the pill.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that I did not get propagandized by Ukraine and I did not get propagandized by all the other shit was admitting that I got propagandized before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
See, if you admit that it happened to you before, you're going to be able to say, they're not going to get me this time.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all had an opportunity during the Trump administration, but they got you. And then instead of saying, okay, they got me in the Trump administration, now we're going to double down with the Zelensky bullshit. And so that's what happened. And now we're too arrogant to say we got by our government. Like, it should have been assigned to you when all of our stations were doing the fuck you Russian warship, the Snake Island thing.
Yeah.
When these Ukrainians bravely said, fuck you, Russia, we don't care if we live or die. And everybody died on Snake Island. And Cenk was reporting on it, crying and all this shit. I mean, shit, I was about to report it. I remember when I told you. I initially told her the story. And then I was about to report on it. And then, you know, I'm like, oh, I got to do a little bit of research before I shoot a video. Thank God. And that's why I have that principle.
Yep.
And then it turned out the whole damn thing was a hoax. Those motherfuckers surrendered immediately.
Yeah.
But did the news come out and say that?
Mm-mm.
No.
Nope.
They had Russian warship, all that shit for 2 or 3 days. Anderson Cooper, all those people. Then there's a little article at the bottom somewhere when you scroll down at CNN where they say, actually, no, they surrendered. If we didn't figure it out by then, I don't know what to tell you. Joe Biden says, is this all my fault?
kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist.
You had girls talking about how hot Zelensky was. All this shit on Twitter. Oh my God, Zelensky. Oh, he's so hot. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He had females out there talking about how hot Zelensky. They wanted Zelensky to be their daddy. All types of crazy shit. Shout out to Zelensky. That dude is like 5'4". It's like 5'5". You know, I mean, they had this dude up as a sex symbol, bro. They had Zelensky calendars, all types of shit. Shout out to Zelensky.
Are you
I'm not joking around. They had your boy as a sex symbol. Shout out to Zelensky. I'm not mad. I'm not a hater. They just had that dude as a sex symbol, though. I wouldn't lie to you, dear listener.
Has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are.
Okay, I respect Tucker for saying invaded, because what did Putin, he called it a special operations mission, is what he called it. Nah, man, you invaded that country, bro. You invaded that country, bro. And you started in the north, and all the Russians were in the south, bro. Come on. But you know, we continue.
Now, they've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in. Mm-hmm. And we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
Right.
Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe. That right cannot be taken away no matter who is in the White House. But they're trying anyway. Almost 3 years ago, the Biden administration illegally spied on our text messages. And
this happened. We covered this.
So crazy.
They did that. And like, I reported it, and like, I reported on that. Go back and look at the commentary. It was insane. I'm like, guys, this is a private citizen. I understand Tucker Carlson is a celebrity, and I understand that you don't like him. I don't like the shit he was doing about critical race theory. Mm-hmm. Like, I had serious problems with Tucker Carlson. But it's not about liking or disliking Tucker Carlson. It is about, do you want the government spying on a member of the journalism community whose job it is to tell on the government. That's the entire point.
No way. They have
of
no
the journalistic
business.
enterprise in the first place. I'm like, you guys are okay with the government doing this to an American citizen? Because
obviously, we know what's up
got you
there.
guys so ginned up with emotionalism and hatred and personality conflicts. This is one of the ways that Trump has permanently changed the landscape. Yes, voting for president has always been a popularity contest, but it's gone from a popularity contest to a cult of personality. And what happens with cult-like figures is people don't see the opposite side of that. On the one hand, people follow cult figures unquestionably. But on the other hand, people blame cult-like figures too at a very high rate. People hate cult leaders, okay? So what happens is, yes, Trump has turned this into a cult of personality. But what's happened is a lot of folks, especially in our generation, have fallen on the other side of the extreme, which is they're just as obsessed with Trump as the, quote, Trump supporters and the Trump loyalists are, only from the opposite direction. So now the government can do anything they want. They can spy on private American citizens. They can violate his rights. Trump's rights were violated by Obama. What Obama pulled during the 2016 elections on Trump makes the Watergate scandal look like nothing. And everybody was fine with it because it was, we don't like Trump and we hate Tucker Carlson. Trump is a Nazi. Tucker Carlson is a fascist, blah, blah. So whatever the ends completely justify the means here. That was wrong and terrifying that our government did that in such a naked, bold way.
Yup.
Didn't even have the decency to give us a good denial. That right there, I'm telling you, that's not good. That's horrible. Because now what's going to happen is we've got a society that's socialized to government overreach so long as the government can successfully cast you as some sort of fascist or whatever. Or if the government can get the populace to just dislike you. Just get in their feelings and then sacrifice all of their rights. This shit is crazy. We continue.
And leak the
shout out to Miss Mac. Shout out to Joey. Ukraine has been assaulted in the Donbass for a decade. I know, bro. I know. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but Joey coming in with the support for sure. We continue. Applejack in this bitch. Israel is calling Biden anti-Semitic for sanctioning their settler citizens for attacking Arabs. Hey, we're gonna have to deal with that topic as well if they're listening. You know that shit's gonna happen. We continue.
Tends to their servants in the news media. They did this in order to stop a Putin interview that we were planning.
They did it last year. They spied on an American citizen in order to impede an interview with this dude. In a democracy. You know, we're Americans. I think that hearing from him would give us pertinent information and be influential in how we vote for president.
Yep.
And I also think hearing from him would force both candidates, see, I'm saying both because we already know what's going to happen. It would force both candidates to have to speak intelligently and with some nuance about this shit. And that's the real reason why they didn't want to let you hear what this man had to say. We continue. Now, look, I don't know Vladimir Putin, okay? He very well may be the Antichrist, okay? He might be as horrible as people say that he is, okay? He might be worse. But I want to see for myself.
I agree.
And I want to hear for myself.
Exactly.
I don't want it curated through the mouth of Rachel Maddow. No disrespect to her.
Nope.
No disrespect to Sori.
No, there's way too many people with way too many agendas.
We're pretty certain they did exactly the same thing once again. But this time, we came to Moscow anyway.
That's right. Feel how you want to feel about Tucker Carlson. One of the things that we've got to do in our generation, guys, I talk about this in a lot with Applejack. We got to get over this emotionalism. And we got to start thinking business, period. We got to start thinking policy, period.
Yep.
I don't care who the mouthpiece is.
Yep.
I don't care. As I said, the shit that Abraham Lincoln said about black people was fucking horrible. We shouldn't be able to serve in juries. We're ontologically inferior to white people. Blah 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 blah. I don't care. I'm voting for that motherfucker because he's got policies that are going to benefit my folks.
Mm-hmm.
And you better. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the person is that they set up to vote. That better be the way that you figure out who you're going to vote for. We continue.
We are not here because we love Vladimir Putin. We are here because we love the United States.
Now, there was a time when a journalist wouldn't even have to say that dumb shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's an interview with a guy who did a interview with bin Laden. And this was way before 9/11. Well, not way before 9/11. It was after the attacks in Africa. Just prior to the USS Cole bombing. And so this dude was in the mountains in Afghanistan, and he had an interview with Osama bin Laden. Bin Laden said, he threatened everybody, did all the bin Laden shit. That guy, before he published a report, he didn't have to say, now, I don't love Osama bin Laden. I love America. Ridiculous. Tucker Carlson's a journalist. I don't care who he loves. I don't care if he loves Vladimir Putin. Yeah. I don't care. I don't care how he feels about Vladimir Putin. It's none of my business. It's none of your business either. The only thing I want out of Tucker Carlson is I want him to ask some real questions. Yep. How do you justify invading this country? Don't you guys think you went a little bit overboard? Look at all the people you killed. What about the war crimes your folks have been accused of committing? What about the fact that the cross into the country is a war crime in itself? I want to hear some tough questions, Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a damn how you feel about Putin.
Yeah. Our questions would tell us that.
None of us should care how any of these people feel about Putin, bro. Mm-hmm. Because that's not his role.
Yeah.
That's not his job. But he has to say that because our country has been so mixed up and turned upside down that we're all captive to our emotions now. Yep. And so he has to do this ridiculous disclaimer that he does not love Vladimir Putin. Well, Tucker Carlson, if you're a Christian, you should. Because the Bible says love your neighbor as yourself. It even tells you to love your enemies. So if Putin's my enemy, then you should love him even more. Mm-hmm. All right. We continue.
We wanted.
LOL. Tucker Carlson is one of the Fox News crew that got lying to the USA about the stolen election. Classic. David, I'm not particularly certain what that has to do with this particular topic at hand. If you can explain that to me, that'd be great. Because I'm not sure what that has to do with him being in Moscow and the fact that we're in a giant conflict with this dude that's got multiple bodies on it, that's got 200, 500 billion American dollars funneled into it, and I didn't get a say in that. Right? So that's what I want to know about. That's what I want to know about.
Agreed.
Now, David says it's all about trust. David, who should we trust? Should we trust the media apparatus that lied us into the Iraq war? Should we trust the media apparatus that didn't provide any narrative for why we were in Afghanistan post-2012 because we killed Osama bin Laden post-2012? What the fuck we were doing in Afghanistan from 2012 to 2022? The media that didn't tell us anything about that. Is it the same media that published a Call of Duty little screen cap and then called it the Ghost of Kiev, this supposed fighter bomber who downed 7 Russian MiGs, all the rest of it? When you say trust, what are you talking about? Like, I agree with you. But, like, which one should we trust? Should we trust the Rachel Maddow who fomented the Russiagate, wild-eyed, insane conspiracy that completely alienated an entire group of Americans, Russian Americans who for 4 straight years were being told that anything relative to their country was evil? That media who have not gone back and reversed any of the shit that they said? We continue.
Remain prosperous and free. We paid for this trip ourselves. We took no money from any government or group. Nor are we charging people to see the interview. It is not behind a paywall.
Smart. Mm-hmm. Smart.
I agree.
One can watch the entire thing, shot live to tape and unedited, on our website, tuckercarlson.com. Elon Musk, to his great credit, has promised not to suppress or block this interview once we post it on his platform, X.
Yeah. See, now you're starting to see why there was such a conniption when Elon went to buy Twitter.
Oh.
Because you and I both know
Yep.
this would be one of the major things that they
100%.
would have suppressed. And now the pressure is on Facebook and all these other platforms. What are y'all going to do?
Yep.
Because are you going to give the exclusive rights to Twitter? You see how smart these people are? They know that the only thing they love more than oppressing us and feeling elite is their money and their ego. And there's no way in the world they're going to let Elon, because they know everybody and their mother's going to watch that damn. So go ahead.
It's going to get more
block it on Facebook, block it on YouTube, make Elon another $1 trillion.
Get more than Shannon Sharp and Cat Williams.
Yep, it's a brilliant. Shout out to Wolves in the Mist. CNN is in a civil war right now because its journalists are claiming their leadership is engaging in journalistic malpractice when it comes to Israel. Correct. Correct. And like my man David Venn said, money and power.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm saying, bro, like, I don't know what Tucker's motives is, and I don't care. I don't trust Tucker as far as I can throw it. But my point is, I know that this at some level has to be a valid interview because of the way that our government has gone after this dude. They spied on this man. They violated his rights. Okay? Now look, the stereotype of the crazy Trump supporter who's a prepper and he's crazy and all this and he's strapped up and all this, man, they've shown a bunch of restraint. Please keep in mind, these people's forefathers went and shot up a bunch of British police officers because they wanted to tax them. Okay? Imagine this complete violation of our rights.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me say, okay, he's got to be on to something because these people wouldn't be doing this shit otherwise. We continue.
And we're grateful for that. Western governments, by contrast, will certainly do their best to censor this video on other less principled platforms because that's what they do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So now if Facebook, Instagram, if you won't allow these clips in this video to be played, it's because you're not principled and you're in bed with the government.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Brilliant. So now they have to stream it across the board. This is how you play chess.
Yep.
This is how you outwit these people. They're not invincible. You can have an endless amount of resources, okay? Trust me. The U.S. military has endless resources, but we had to leave Afghanistan. If the will of the people is enough, it doesn't matter how much money you have. That's why we just strolled through Iraq and we did what we had to do. We did whatever we wanted to do there. That was a different group of people. They don't got the type of will those people in Afghanistan do. So we got to have the will to look this shit in the face and hold these people accountable. Simple as that.
Yep.
They're afraid of information they can't control. But you have no reason to be afraid of it. We are not encouraging you to agree with what Putin may say in this interview, but we are urging you to watch it. You should know as much as you can. And then, like a free citizen and not a slave, you can decide for yourself. Thanks.
I mean,
sorry, not sorry.
You know what's
He's
crazy?
right.
When I went to a Bible college that closed off all other books except for what was in their library. You could not read anything else. They couldn't read anybody else's opinions aside from the opinions that they wanted you to have. And anybody that hears that information is like, that's a cult. That's not good. Because it's a religious institution that did it. But here you have this situation where, I mean, the government is going in and checking up on journalists that are going to tell us what's going on with the government. Like, there's a lot of overreach that's happening here. I mean, but we'll do that with ourselves. Like, people will do that with themselves. They'll be like, okay, let's not hear what Putin has to say. Let's only stay with these interviews. Aren't you doing the same thing as that college, but you're just doing it to yourself?
Correct. Why do y'all trust Tucker Carlson? What's the fascination with him? He has his own agenda to cause a reaction and collect a check in the aftermath.
Well,
Dwayne, as I said, I don't care what Tucker Carlson's motives are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care.
There's still going to be something we can gain from listening to what Putin actually has to say from his own
I want to know
mouth.
what Mr. Putin has to say for himself.
Yeah.
And I want other Americans to hear what Mr. Putin has to say. I don't care what Tucker Carlson's motives are. I don't care how much money he's going to make out of it. It's irrelevant to me. And quite frankly, whatever he makes off of this little endeavor, I promise you, is not going to be worth the kind of harassment he's going to have to endure from our government for doing this shit.
Yep.
This is one of those things that could not have happened without technology like social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
100%.
So when you have an anomaly like this, that means that the folks that were doing their 20, 30, 40-year plans did not anticipate this.
Mm-hmm.
These people are not God and they're not omniscient.
Yep.
We know they plan shit and we know they play the long game, but there's no way they could have seen a situation where they no longer have control of the media.
Yep.
And so one of the things I will say though, Dwayne, is that our government has had a concerted effort of monitoring and violating the rights of and deploying psychological warfare within the media itself. They've got a history of doing this to people. They did it to your folks. They still do it to your folks. They did it to my folks. COINTELPRO with Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So here's my own thing about Tucker Carlson. It's a fact. The U.S. government was monitoring him. They did violate his civil rights as an American. Now, listen, that tells me that at some level he's a threat that they did not anticipate, and they're trying to figure out how to silence this dude.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it strange? He was the #1 show on Fox News, and Fox got rid of him. Okay? I don't believe. And then AOC got up there, and she had her little smirk like deplatforming works or whatever. Spiking the football that somehow she had something to do with Tucker, being ousted from Fox, which again is a horrific 1984 style. You've got a member of the government happy that the speech of a prominent person in America has been quelled. Okay? So, look, this is not about the personality cult of Tucker Carlson or a popularity contest. I don't care. That's not his role in society.
Mm-hmm.
His personal beliefs and his personal how he's going to get remunerated for this is completely irrelevant to me. What's relevant to me is I want people to at least hear the other side.
Yep.
That's all. Now,
Yep.
all of us know that 50% of what he says is going to be bullshit and lies. Just like when our politicians get on TV, we know 50% of it offhand is bullshit and lies. I think the American people collectively are intelligent enough to be able to parse the difference. But either way, I don't believe it's the government's role to make those calls. I think it's the American people's role to make those calls.
I agree.
No. What do you mean we accept Carlson at face value? I don't know what you mean by accept. Like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean by accept? He's going to do an interview. I want to see what Mr. Putin says in the interview. I didn't say anything about Tucker Carlson being a great guy and all the rest of it. What I will tell you, though, is that he's a genuine threat to our administration.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that.
But we can. The messenger can manipulate his message to his own agenda. I mean, we are getting an uncut version. I know he can ask certain questions to go a certain way, but we're going to still gain information from it. And I mean, I appreciate the fact that it's going to be uncut and unedited.
Yeah, again, I just think that this is part of the zeitgeist that we also have to personally like the person in order to get information from them. I don't need to like you or trust you or believe in you to listen to information. Look, if Adolf Hitler runs a math class and he says 2 + 2 is 4, it's still 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
It's still a fact, though. So all of us know that in order to get to these spaces on TV or on the internet, you got to be a certain kind of person. We know that already. But I think all of us are intelligent enough to be able to hear what Mr. Putin has to say, and then we can measure as Americans, and then folks are going to have to change their policy. All media manipulates the message to their own agenda. Correct. The more different sources you have, yeah, exactly. I look at news. So well put. All media manipulates the message to their own agenda. The more different sources you have, the closer you can come to the truth. Exactly.
Yep.
What we want is as much information possible so we can make an amalgamation and a synthesis based on that amalgamation and say, this is what I think is as close to the truth as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We can never trust a politician or a media talking head. But what you can do is just like a crime scene investigator. You look at all the evidence, you talk to everybody, and you know that the people you're talking to don't have 100% of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
They've got one angle.
Yep.
They were sitting on the right. They were standing on the right side. So they've got one version of the accident. This person was sitting down on the left side. So they have another version of the accident.
Yep.
This person was up in a tree. They have another version of the accident. I'm not going to say, well, the guy up in the tree, I'm just going to get my information from one. No. If everybody's a liar, get as much information as possible,
mm-hmm.
and then you
see
can
which
parse
information
out
overlaps.
You're inconsistent. Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Citizen, you're a network talking head and a liar. I don't know who that is.
It's Luminous.
2 + 2 = 22. Yeah. Tucker admitted that he was wrong about Iraq. That's all you need to know about him. Look, man, that's my thing. Like, a person is allowed to be wrong. They're allowed to be crazy. Guess what? They're allowed to be racist. They're allowed to be misogynist. They're allowed to be homophobic. That does not change the truth value
mm-hmm.
of the article of information that they're speaking from. And I think we got to get away from that, man. We got to get away from that mentality.
Yeah,
we got to get away from that mentality.
Plus, if he admitted he was wrong about Iraq, I mean, that's something right there. He admitted that he was wrong. A lot of people don't. They just keep barreling forward on stuff.
I mean, you got people on that have no audience whatsoever that can't admit
mm-hmm.
that they were wrong about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, look, again, I don't have to like Tucker. Do I think that he's got completely pure motives for why he? Of course not. Do I think he wants? Of course he wants to make money. I don't care. I don't care about none of that shit. All right, guys. When the actual interview happens, we're actually going to try to live stream it. As it goes on.
Yep.
So you guys can have my wonderful commentary as this shit is going along. I'm assuming it's going to get blocked, but we'll see. But yeah, man,
well,
we're going to...
Couldn't we just live stream it on X?
Yeah, that's right. We can also live stream on X because we can do full live streams on that.
Already said X said they're not going to be banning it.
Yeah,
so.
X isn't going to ban it. So yeah, we might do a Twitter watch-along party, guys, for that. He also admitted he was wrong about Assange. A person willing to change his opinion when facts are presented is what I try to be.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that does not mean that everything he does now is on the up and up.
Right.
But it does mean that he's not freaking Rachel Maddow,
mm-hmm.
who dragged us through 4 to 6 years of nonsense and never retracted it. That's got to mean something, y'all.
Yep.
All right, guys. Having said that, we are out of here. It feels really, really good to be back. We're very, very excited.
Yep, there's so much more to come.
You
shall see.
And hopefully we're going to be able to put the news out there as soon as the news happens.
Yeah.
Like, share, comment, subscribe. We're going to try to make this thing an extremely interactive thingamajiggy. As we always say, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America. We didn't do that right? This is back and forth. Love your neighbor.
Take care of each other.
Middle America.
We're supposed to do Middle America together.
We are the media.
Well, we are the media.
Till next time, guys.
Yep.